It's October, it's Halloween season. That means each Saturday of this month, I'm putting out a new video ranking a classic horror franchise. 2 weeks ago, I did the Scream movies. A week ago, I did the Halloween movies. And a week from now, I'm going to do the Saw movies. If you want to check out any of those videos, you can do so up at the playlist above. But today, we are talking about Chucky, the Child's Play franchise. Now, for me, this is a bit of a new one for me because I grew up watching the original trilogy of movies, but I'd never seen any of the Chucky movies, any of the ones from the last 20 years. I hadn't seen any of them until this past week, so I'm a little bit of fresh new eyes to all of this, as well as someone that kind of grew up with some of the movies in the franchise, so I'll bring a little bit of an interesting perspective to it. If you want the perspective of some people that are kind of classic, longer-term fans of it, you can check out this video up above. A couple of my YouTube videos, Almost Sideways and Cody Leach, ranked the Chucky movies just a little bit ago, and they're a little bit more kind of lifelong fans. I'm the fresh eyes, so if you want some different perspectives, there you have it. And while you're watching, be sure to put your ranking down below in the comments section. Which ones you love, which ones you hate, why you love them, why you hate them, because I know people have really strong opinions on the Chucky movies and the different changes of direction. So I'd love to get that discussion going on. And even as we look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, poll results, my score on all of this, they're all over the place. So I know you're going to be all over the place, and I'd love to get that discussion going on down below. All right, let's start talking about these movies, and we'll kick it off by looking at how Rotten Tomatoes has ranked these movies over the years, or at least where their Rotten Tomatoes scores have fallen. Now, this list is bizarre. It's probably going to make a lot of people mad, and it's pretty well useless to use this metric for this particular franchise because 30 years ago, they were putting them out in theaters. And so wide, broad releases, towards when they're released now, kind of a smaller, narrow niche group of people will review them. Take this as you will. Coming in at number 7, Child's Play 3 with 23%. Coming in at number 6 is Seed of Chucky with 32%. Coming in at number 5, Child's Play 2, 40%. Coming in at number 4 is Bride of Chucky with 46%. Coming in at number 3, Child's Play with 69%. Coming in at number 2, Curse of Chucky with 82%. And coming in at number 1 with 87% is Cult of Chucky, which I find that ranking, that different order of the movies based off how critics aggregated together on Rotten Tomatoes, absolutely fascinating. That's the way I felt, but there's a reason for it if you look at the types of reviews that are on there for why it would fall in those particular places. Later in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a Twitter poll that I did and what you guys voted on it. If you guys want to join in some future Twitter polls for my different ranking videos that I do, please follow me on Twitter. Every time before I put out one of these ranking videos, I try to put out a Twitter poll and kind of get your feedback on it. I'll put that one out, discuss it between my third and fourth choices to kind of break things up a little bit. With that said, let's dive into it and start talking about these movies from my perspective. Coming in at number 7 for me is going to be Seed of Chucky. I was warned by my buddy Cody Leach before I started watching this one. It's like, watch out, man. This one is crazy. It is bizarre. It is weird. It is in poor taste. It's politically incorrect. And he's correct. It is all of those things. And I can respect the fact that they were like, let's just try and make the most tasteless extension of what we did of Bride of Chucky and just put it out there and go for it. I can appreciate that they went for this meta. Jennifer Tilly's playing her, like the character she played in this movie about the events of the previous movie. I can respect all of that. And I can say I was not bored by this movie. This was not for me the most boring film in the franchise. It's just one of those movies that like you're watching the train wreck like, oh no, they're still doing this. They're still doing the peeing kid gag. They're still like the traumatized child that pees himself. They're still doing that. Oh no, they're doing more genital jokes about a doll. Oh no, they're continuing to go down this path. Wow, this movie is so rapey. I can't believe how far. So you're watching the train wreck as it's unfolding. I can appreciate, like if someone was like actually really enjoys this movie, I could see where there'd be like this sick line of like, man, they were just so crazy and they went for it. I can actually kind of appreciate that sort of mentality for me. I mean, I wouldn't want to watch this one again other than if I had a friend with a really dark sense of humor that had never seen it. And I just want to like, I just want to watch them react to watching this. Like, that's the only context I can imagine watching this movie again. Like, even as it started, my wife had gone grocery shopping, like, oh, I'll start watching Cult of Chucky. And she's definitely not going to want to watch this one after what Cody said about it. So I click play on it. And the opening credits start, and there's like white trickling down the screen. It's like, that's where this movie's starting off. And as soon as that happens, my wife walks in the door. She's like, hey, what are you watching? Is this sperm flying? What kind of sick movie? And we're 10 seconds into the movie. I was like, you're probably going to want to leave. You're not going to want to see anything in this movie. And I was correct. She would hate everything about this movie. Wow. It was fun to explain it to her. Like, and then they pulled out a turkey baster. Like, she's like, what? And this is a movie that got made. Yeah. And released in theaters. Pretty exciting stuff. So it's interesting to me. It's certainly something I can respect your balls. I did not enjoy what you put up on the screen. Coming in at number 6 for me is going to be Child's Play 3. Now, if there's a movie in this series that just kind of felt dull and like a rehash, it was this one. Like, I didn't feel this one brought anything new to the table. It's like, look, Andy's a little bit older. See, it's different. He's at a military school, but it just felt like a rehash of what we saw before in a different setting. The same themes explored the same way. People don't believe him. People think Andy's killing everybody. People think he's crazy. So it's just rehashing things we saw before. And I mean, I understand there was the other student and Chucky was kind of messing with him, but it just felt like I was watching a duller version of the previous 2 movies. It just, for me, there wasn't much of anything that kind of pulled me in that I enjoyed in this one. And likewise, you know, they got Jimmy Olsen from Lois and Clark. Or actually, I think this one came up before Lois Clark. But they got Jimmy Olsen in it, so it was nice to see him doing something different. But it's not like I don't think he had the gravitas to carry a movie and be the intriguing lead character in it. So just all in all, I have the fewest things to say about it because unlike Cult of Chucky, that was just so offensively insane, it's just fun to talk about. This one, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like what came before, just in a different setting. So there you go. All right, before we move on to talking about the next movie in this series or move on up to my top 5, I want to talk about the number 1 way that you can support my channel. If you like the videos, the content I'm doing, want to help me continue doing it, please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Patreon is a way that you can directly financially support my channel, kind of help me continuing doing what I'm doing and kind of take things to the next level. And with that, there's some different perks and kind of exclusive content, some Google Hangouts, some interactions over there, some insight into this channel. Like this video right here is because people over there said, yeah, absolutely, do the Child's Play movies. And I went, actually, you know what? I'll change up what I was planning on doing. I'll do Child's Play because they said that. Same with the Halloween movies. These are happening because they recommended it. And like I said, kind of the key thing is if you just enjoy what I'm doing and want to help me do more, that's one of the best ways to do it. Like right now I have studio lights right here because they supported my channel and helped me kind of improve things and take it to the next level. Actually, same with these lights back here, this new setup, all of it because of my supporters on Patreon. Thank you guys for doing that. So if you want to help the channel, that's the number 1 way to do it. The link is down below. Let's get back to talking about Chucky. Coming in at number 5 for me is going to be Cult of Chucky. I actually watched this one just last night. And there were things about this one that almost kind of pushed it higher up on the list, like the idea that actually setting it in an insane asylum and kind of tying together the nice revival with Curse of Chucky, with Andy coming back from the original trilogy. All of that stuff was like, this is a good direction to take things. There's a lot of interesting stuff that you can do with this. And then kind of where it went with it of the multiple Chuckies. And then, for me, it felt like Jennifer Tilly's kind of phoning it in, like that, which it wasn't like clicking like it did before. And so the further it went along, the more I was like, oh, I'm not liking this as much as I thought I was going to. Or I'm not liking it where they set things up to be a lot more interesting and have a much more fascinating battle in it. And I guess I can respect the direction they decided to kind of twist things and change things up and end in a very different place than I thought that this movie was going. And I can respect that, but I didn't necessarily enjoy that, especially with the potential of kind of 2 of these protagonists, or 2 of our most interesting protagonists. I guess they are the 2 most interesting protagonists of these, if you don't call Chucky a protagonist, which hopefully you don't, teaming up to battle Chucky in an insane asylum. It seems like there's a lot of really interesting stuff that you could do with that, and I didn't feel that like I got that in this movie. It almost feels like they had a few too many ideas that they want to play with. They're like, let's bring Andy back, and Andy's an adult now getting his revenge. But they didn't know how to fully incorporate that. They didn't know how to fully extend that, or maybe they were nervous about bringing the actor back and thinking he couldn't carry the movie. And then we got our sequel to Curse of Chucky, where she's in the loony bin now, and they took that places, and I just kind of respect that, but it didn't seem like we meshed these two things or take full advantage of what we could have done with that. And then we have this idea of multiple Chuckies that I just in general didn't really click for me. That wasn't something I'm particularly interested in. And then just in general, this old idea that we're in the loony bin, that in and of itself was an idea. And the four could have come together, but they didn't, for me, work together. So overall, I didn't particularly care for this one all that much, even though there was a lot of potential for me to like it. Now, these bottom three, I would probably say I didn't particularly care for them. I'd probably go thumbs down on all of these ones. Top four, all ones, I would say, I enjoy those ones. Those brought something to the table. So there's a pretty big gap between number 5 and number 4. Speaking of number 4, coming in number 4 for me is going to be Child's Play 2. Now, this is actually the one that I remember the most, kind of from growing up as a kid, being like, oh, look, what's Child's Play is going to be on USA. I'm going to check this out, and watching it late at night and tuning in like 5 minutes late to it and stuff like that, and remembering him being at the adopted house. So this is the one I actually have the most nostalgia for from my childhood of watching it. And this one kind of, in a lot of ways, just has the most memorable images in it for that reason of the guy being suffocated in the car and things like that. But just in general, there's a very solid sequel that builds off the ideas of the first one and takes them to a logical kind of conclusion of where you can go with it and enjoy some things a little bit more. We'll talk about this in a little bit. But so like in the first movie, Chucky's kind of off in the background, kind of, is he really, is it really the kid killing him? Is it the doll? Kind of what's going on? And so he doesn't really come to his personality till later in the movie. A lot of it we're following the parents. And so this movie, very early on, we get Chucky, and when you get a great performance of Brad Dourif going on here, like you get to fully see the character come to fruition in this one, which makes for just a great sequel follow-up to the original one and touching on similar sorts of ideas. And unlike the third one where it felt like, oh, are we still doing this again? It's a rehash. This one was a continuation that expanded on the ideas, so they go really nicely together in general. And to finally get the vibe of like, oh, Chucky's sense of humor, the one-liners, the kills and stuff. And so I thought this one was just a really nice follow-up to the previous film in the series. And so that's where I would I kind of rank this one. All right, like I said earlier in this video, before we go into my top 3, I'll go to the Twitter poll. So like I said, if you want to kind of be involved in the polls that I put out for my ranking videos, follow me over on Twitter. I put 1 or 2 of these up per week, depending on how many ranking videos I do that week. But here's what the results for this one. So I asked, what is the worst Chucky movie by far across the board? People said Seed of Chucky. Now on the best, once again, overwhelming victor is the original Child's Play with 51%. This one had 35 votes, so that's a huge sampling there. Coming in second is Child's Play 2, and then we got Curse of Chucky, and in fourth there was Bride of Chucky. If you throw those all together, what you would get is the worst is Seed of Chucky, number 6 is Child's Play 3, number 5 is Cult of Chucky, number 4 is Bride of Chucky, number 3 is Curse of Chucky, number 2 is Child's Play 2, and number 1 is Child's Play. So just, some different perspectives in there, and that's half the fun of this, is that especially with this franchise, people have such different opinions. Hopefully you guys will join me down in the comment section below, give me your thoughts on the series and your ranking. Now, like I said, there's a lot of different opinions on these, and let's go into my top 3. Coming in number 3 for me is going to be Curse of Chucky. Now, when this one first started, the first 30 minutes or so, I was thinking this might be in competition with Child's Play 3, kind of competing for the second worst in the series, just because the acting didn't feel up to par with the rest of the series, and it was going so serious with where it was going with things that it just kind of sucked some of the fun out of it for a little bit. And there was like a dinner scene, and I got what they were going for, but the acting just wasn't there, and so the delivery of some of the dialogue just came off clunky and awkward, and all these close-up shots of people eating soup that's not really my thing. And then it kind of clicked into gear, and I thoroughly enjoyed the second half of the movie a lot more than the beginning part of the movie. Once Chucky got involved and just kind of the different scenarios that they kind of created and how it started to unfold, and just a very interesting new take on what we'd seen before, and the series reinventing itself once again, which this series had done so many times, a couple times successfully and at least one time horribly, but kind of just a new take on it with a new set of people that are kind of people being killed by Chucky, but just even kind of bringing this new Nika character that the first 30 minutes I was like, I don't know about this character, and once it got going, thoroughly enjoyed what they did with her and the sorts of scenarios that you would get with her performance. I just thought it was really cool that it's Brad's daughter, and as soon as I read that, I was like, I can see that is so his daughter, especially some of these moments in it. It's a little bit creepy how much she both looks like an adult female woman and looks like her old man father. But so a lot of things just kind of clicked into gear in that second half of the movie, as well as just where they started tying things together and kind of the epilogues at the end. It's like, oh man, all right, I really dug this one quite a bit. This one did quite the turnaround once things got going, to the point of like, all right, maybe I need to rewatch the beginning of this movie and watch it a second time just to see if like how much more I'd appreciate the first 30 minutes in light of the second 30 minutes. That's a good sign for a movie when it makes me do that, as opposed to I finish the movie and be like, oh man, don't want to watch that again. And I always love it when a movie actually gets better as it goes along, as opposed to kind of peters out. And this one was one that definitely got better for me as it went along. But for me, coming in at number 2 is going to be Child's Play, the original. Now, I kind of debated back and forth which one of these top 2 was going to be the top one, which was going to be number 2. And my end result was I decided to put Child's Play at number 2. On a different day of the week, I'd probably put it at number 1. There's pure fun of my number 1 pick is kind of why it got there. But for me, this movie just kind of set up a certain creep factor and fun factor that mixed together the genres of horror, and not really comedy in this one so much, but a sense of fun and quip, and there's humor in there that just worked so nicely. The cast of it also it kind of helped quite a bit as well, because when you get the girl from Star Trek 4, you naturally are going to draw me in. You get the bad guy from Princess Bride thrown in there. You got a couple faces that I like to see in movies, and they're battling an evil doll that's killing people, so that has a certain nice charm to it. But what this movie did really nicely is it just thought through, like, what if there's a killer doll? And what if people obviously aren't going to believe it's a killer doll? So what if not sure if it's a kid, if there's accidents, and there's this sense of paranoia and lack of trust, and it just established such a clear theme for the rest of the series that works so nicely. It's such a good setup, and they just happen to cast Brad Dourif in this role, and so wonderful, creepy performance as the doll. So a lot of just kind of interesting ideas that you could see where this would be a lot more of a throwaway movie if they didn't realize the paranoia and the fear that can come with it. If you don't get someone that can have this creepy voice that's also charismatic at the same time. Like, there's just several different things that kind of came together really nicely in this movie to kind of make it pull together and make for a franchise that here we are 29 years later, and we just got another movie in the franchise that's still tying together elements from the original. It's not just kind of going off in a different direction. It's still bringing Andy back. We still got the same kind of lead guy in there, and it's set up a world that you can go in so many bizarre places, and it fits within the rules that they established early on. Maybe if you throw out Seated Chucky, we're breaking some rules, getting wacky there, but there's so many places you can go with the rules of humans into dolls type stuff, and that's where they were able to go with this series. So this one in general, probably for me, the one that's kind of the creepiest because of the uncertainty of what's going on, the mystery, probably the most, in that regard, just scariest for me. But I don't really get scared by movies, so I'm probably overstating that point. But I'll call it creep factor, probably the best creep factor, along with Curse of Chucky. Those are the two kind of creepy, ickiest for me, and set up a great world. So it comes in at number 2. Different day of the week could come in at number 1, but for me today, coming in at number 1 is going to be Bride of Chucky. Now, for about 20 years now, I'd been like, oh, I'm not going to watch a movie where he gets a girlfriend. It's called Bride of Chucky. This looks horrible. This looks awful. And so I'd never watched any of the later movies in the series because it just looks so ridiculous to me. And then because I was going to do this series because of my patron supporters, I watched it. And somehow it made it to the top. Like, right out of the gate, I was like, wow, this is like, I get what they're doing here. They set up this weird, dark, crazy, insane tone and find a way to tie it into the world that you go, okay, somehow this is working. Somehow this is making sense. In that if the world's the supply that he can go into this doll, those rules still apply for someone else to go into there. And if this guy's as dysfunctional and insane as we've seen him to be, what would a love story be involving him? Who would be the person attracted to him? And you create this whole new insane direction to take this series, and they get like kind of two separate, different Bonnie and Clyde type storylines going on in it that just kind of make for a fun ride. It's a road trip movie with two people that are scared that the other person is a serial killer, and then two serial killers kind of tracking along with them. And it's so gleefully violent and just these clever, bizarre kills or things you think are kills but aren't kills, and people come back and stuff. You're like, whoa, they just did that. So many moments like that, you know, people on waterbed, and you're like, what are they going to do with this? And you're like, oh, glass, and just the imagery of it with what Ronny Yu came up with for it. Just so many different levels that made me go, just put a smile on my face, a morbid, dark smile on my face for this very insane, bizarre direction to take things that was bold, different, and for me, just an enormous amount of fun. If you're going to get someone to play this character that would be attracted to Chucky, Jennifer Tilly seems like the perfect person to bring in for like a role like that. So you bring her in, it fits perfectly into this world if you can buy that comedic jump. If you can't do it, I understand why people would be like, oh, this movie killed the franchise. I get it. I bought into it, so she seems like the perfect person to do that with. So I just had a ton of fun with just the gleeful insanity, violence, and all of it. So this one, today at least, comes in at number one. But in my mind, I was competing back and forth, debating where a lot of those ones would go. Whereas some of them, like Seed, Child's Play 3, those are pretty safely at the bottom. These two, I could change my mind upon reviewing and depending on what my mood I'm in on a given day. But anyway, that's my take on it. How about you? Tell me down below in the comment section, how do you rank the Chucky movies? Which ones just are appalling to you? Which ones are amazing? Do you love them all? How long have you been watching them your whole life? All that fun stuff. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, like the one that you're watching right now. But the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies, TV, ranking videos. I want to talk about all of that with you. So join me down in the comment section. Let's have a lively discussion. I know that we can. I know people have very strong opinions about the Chucky movies. So I'd love to get it going down in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for watching.